everyone that we do not have class tomorrow. So our next live session will be on Monday. That does not mean, obviously, that the course is not open. Clearly, it stays open throughout your session. And just another quick reminder to try and turn in all of the work for week 1 in by this Sunday. So you don't have to ask to reopen anything. Everything is open, obviously, with the exception of the participation questions. But sometimes if you've missed a participation question, always go and check to see if I've opened it. Typically, if there's an exception, maybe somebody had some type of situation going on and I've opened it for them, I just open it for everyone. But past this week, guys, the participation question will not be reopened. I opened it obviously because this is, the first week and we're all trying to acclimate ourselves. But the other assignments will stay open. So those you'll have free access to. So just wanted to remind everyone of that. We're going to talk about resumes today, and we're going to really connect the dots between these hard and soft skills that we've talked about this week and how it relates to your resume. Now, many of us have resumes. You may already have one now. I'm not sure. I know you'll be working with career services, but I'm not sure if they've seen it in the past, and maybe they've done it for you. Maybe you've done your own resume. But what we're going to focus on tonight is just understanding the structure of the resume, what people expect you to put in your resume, and really the purpose of the resume. A lot of people think that the resume is obviously a written document, but they think it's like focused primarily on you, almost like a bio, if you will. Like, hey, you want to know about Cynthia Taylor? Here's my resume. But resumes are actually a response document to a job advertisement. Every time you respond to a job advertisement, your resume should reflect the questions. Your resume basically should be answers to the questions or the statements from the job advertisement. Essentially, if a company is putting out a job advertisement, we call that a call to action of some sort, right? And they're looking for you to respond. So obviously, the responses should make sense for the call. If I put a call out for doctors, I don't expect veterinarians to respond. I expect doctors to respond. If I put a call out for an electrician, I expect electricians to respond. Taking that a step further, if I put a call out to low voltage electricians, I expect people that have experience with low voltage electricity to respond. So if my basic resume does not have wording on it that the job advertisement has, which is a call, I need to do one of two things. If I have that experience, maybe the advertisement put something out there that I didn't think to put on my resume, but I totally have that experience. You have to adjust your resume to make sure that you do showcase that you have that experience, and then you respond back to the job advertisement. So, what are these things that you're responding to in the job advertisement? When you read a job advertisement, there will always be what we call keywords. Basically, these are the most important things that the company wants for you to have. Now, how will you know that they're keywords? Because obviously the job advertisement won't say, hey, here's a keyword. The job advertisement is just going to have, hey, here's my company. I'm looking for an electrician. Here are your job duties. And, the assumption is everything they write is important. But in reality, there are certain things that they that are must-haves that they want you to have, and then there's other things in that job advertisement that they may not be as stickler about. How do you know the difference? Well, if you are an electrician, you should know what are the key important things to be an electrician, and we call those keywords or trigger words. So if we look at this potential job, this example job post, right? This is for a welder. Now, we don't have any welders in this class, but if I were looking at this job advertisement and it said stuff like, I want you to be able to read and interpret blueprints, be able to set up and maintain equipment, be able to select appropriate welding processes. If I'm a welder, those highlights, that's me. I'm highlighting all these things, and these are key words because I know what's important as a welder. If I were responding to a teacher position, I know what's important for a teacher position more so than what's not as important. For example, I know being able to write curriculum is very, very important. Being able to understand scaffolding and how to, the difference between a beginning lesson and a critical thinking lesson, that's critically important. Someone that knows how to do presentations is not as critically important, but only if you're an instructor do you know that, right? So as an electrician, even though they may have both of those things on the key on the job advertisement, I know the curriculum piece is going to be more important than doing presentations. But guess what? If I have presentations experience as well as curriculum writing experience, I'm going to include all of that in my resume. So what you're going to do in a job advertisement, you're going to go through that job advertisement and you're going to highlight everything that you know to be key for your position. And if you notice here, as it relates to hard and soft skills, everything that they put here is a collection of hard and soft skills. You may not pick up on some of the soft skills, and I didn't really highlight one or two of them, but even at the bottom, you can see here where it says working with team members. That's a soft skill. Now, typically, I will say the most important skills are at the top, and the skills that are a little bit not as important, sometimes they put at the bottom. Sometimes, though, they just group the skills. They put the technical skills at the top, and they put the soft skills at the bottom. Sometimes some companies will put the soft skills at the top, especially if it's like a team dynamic, if it's customer based and they really, really want you to have good customer service skills. They'll put it right at the top and they'll talk about it a lot, right? So you want to pay attention to that too. If you start to see some type of reoccurring theme where the company's saying, oh, it's important for you to have patience. It's important for you to be a good team player. It's important for you to put the customer first. You already know those soft skills are critically important for them. You want to pay attention to that stuff. Like, do not just brush through a job description because it is them talking to you. It's a call to action. This is what they want, and these are the type of skills that they want to see when you respond back to that job advertisement. So why is it also important? Because so many people are using Indeed and LinkedIn and all these different platforms, companies get so many resumes, so much so that they use what we call automatic tracking system software to sift through those resumes. So if you've ever gotten a response back from a company that says, oh yeah, we're reviewing your resume, thank you so much. That's a computer, came from an automatic tracking system. Oh, thank you so much for applying for this job, but we've decided to move on to the next person whose skills more closely aligned our job description. That's a computer. No one's even seen your resume because they have these systems that automatically reject resumes that do not meet a certain threshold, and nobody knows what they've programmed that software to do. You don't know if they've programmed their software to say if 60% of their keywords are not on this resume, automatic rejection. Now, I'll tell you, we all know technology is not perfect. They're starting to see some fault in these automatic tracking systems. Elon Musk came out, like 2 weeks ago, maybe a little longer than 2 weeks ago, and he was actually complaining that, because he uses automatic tracking system too, that it was turning down some really good you know, applicants, probably because what he put in that tracking system. Knowing Elon, he probably had some, oh, they got to have high level this, high level that, high level that. And, the person probably didn't put that on their resume, or a lot of people weren't putting what he wanted to see on the resume, and they were getting rejected. And somehow he caught wind of it, and he made a big statement like, oh my God, we were losing some really good candidates, because I think what happened was he wasn't meeting his quota, because a lot of people, I mean, he's just turned a lot of people off from wanting to work at X anyway, because people see it as a toxic work environment. I mean, if you have high turnover, a lot of times people aren't going to work at your company. That's just common sense. But so much so that he was concerned about it, and he had to go to his HR department to see what was happening. And he had noticed all of these resumes that were being rejected. And that happens a lot because, again, technology is not perfect. So in order for you to try to, beat the system, it's so important for you to have as many keywords from that job description in your resume as possible. So you might say, well, shoot, I'm just starting this electrical journey. How do I make sure it's on my resume? Well, I'm going to show you exactly where you can put information, as much information as possible on your resume. There are a lot of different sections on your resume, right? You have your heading section, you have what we call a summary. Some people call it a profile or a qualification section. You have a skills section, an experience section, and an education section. These are all different areas where you can put hard and soft skills from that job description. So does that mean you have to adjust your resume even after you just got it done with career services? Yeah, yeah. So that's why you have this class, and that's why you have the support of career services, because you do have to adjust the resume. The resume that they're doing now for you is really just a base resume. Every time you apply to an advertisement, if they have words on that advertisement that are not on your resume, but you have that skill set, you need to make sure you go back and adjust the wording in your job advertisement, in your resume. So what does that look like? Well, starting with your heading, that's pretty simple. The only thing I want to point out with the heading, outside of obviously it needs your name and your phone number and your email address, like, don't ever put your home address on it. Back in the day, we used to put our home address on our resumes, but now it's like recommended that you don't do that, especially if you are replying to a job advertisement on an Indeed or a ZipRecruiter. You're not replying directly to the company, right? So you don't want to give out your personal information, on some third-party site. And sometimes there have been people that put out fake job advertisements trying to get people's personal information to use it, to do identity theft primarily. So, and then for other security reasons, just don't put your address on your resume. You can just put your geographic location, Fort Myers, Tampa, Florida. Companies want to know that. That's important because sometimes companies want to hire locally, but you don't have to put your personal information on it. So that's the main thing with your heading. And then obviously, if you do have some type of social media account, put that on your resume, because a lot of companies are wanting to see you before they see you nowadays, and they want to, see people's, LinkedIn accounts. Now, for those of us that are in school, this is one of the first areas where you could put information about your skill set. Your summary is, designed to give the reader an opportunity to see what this resume is about. If you know that you are transitioning into the electrical field, here is where you want to make that initial statement, right? Because you want to, inform the reader that's about to read your resume that they're going to read a resume where the experience may look a little different. And so they need to know that you're transitioning into this new field. So when I write my resume and in the summary section, if it's a new field, I always start out, and here's what I'll do. They say always start out with like a personal statement. It's like one sentence that sets the stage. Me, I've been teaching for 20 years. So my first sentence will say something like a seasoned educator with over 20 years experience. Let me stop there because I'm going to tell you what to say experience and what. Now, this is where you make that first reference to the job advertisement. Let's say it's an electrical position. You notice that they want you to do some low voltage work. They want you to work at the airport, putting up CCTVs and security alarm systems, stuff like that, right? Um, and they want you to work on these project teams because you guys got to work, and on this project and that project and that project, whatever it is, right? Because a lot of times when you work at the airport, a lot of people don't know, like everything at the airport is not just owned by the airport. There are other companies, whether it's airlines or, the companies that own some of the equipment, the companies that own, the restaurants and stores, right? So you could be working on different projects, right? Um, so they have that in your in the job advertisement. So one thing that you could do, maybe you've worked on team projects before, not on electrical, but you worked on team projects. They ask for someone that worked on team projects. My first statement may say something like, a seasoned professional um, uh, working closely and collaboratively on a dynamic team setting. Why did I let that be my first sentence? Because that's one place I can put something from that job description. Then I may go on to say newly a newly transitioned electrical technician, right? I'm letting you know I'm new in this with experience in. What do you think I'm going to say with experience in? With experienced in whatever they put in that job description that you have experience in. If you've been learning some low voltage stuff, whether it's pulling up wires, hanging up, doing security alarm systems, whatever you've done, that's where you put it in your summary with experience and blah 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 and blah. There you go. That's how you add some of those key words to your resume when you haven't done the work. You've just said that you're new in your transition and in it and you have experience. Where did you get that experience? You got it from school. Yes, school is experience. Now it may be academic experience, but it's still experience, right? So right at the top with that summary, that sets the stage. That lets them know, oh, okay, I'm about to read a resume. The person has the team experience. They're transitioning into electrical, but they at least have these skill sets. Hopefully that makes sense, right? The next section is your skill section. So this is like, typically this is like little bullets, like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And you can put the skills that you have. Once again, I may not have the experience, but I do have the skill. I got it from school. This is where you can put the skill. Whatever skill that you see in that job advertisement, because you have a lot of skills, but trust me, they're not asking you about your skills in accounting. They're asking you about your skills in electrical. So look at that job description. If you have any skills from that job description, you need to, because you're trying to front load your resume as much as possible, put it in the skills section, because once you get down to the experience section, you're not going to be able to put anything there because you don't have that experience, not the technical experience anyway, maybe some of the soft skills. So this is another place where you can put some of that experience. Now, obviously, your education is another opportunity for you to say, yes, I graduated from Southern Tech, an electrical technician or whatever the title is, and you're going to put the date that you've graduated in the city and state. They always want to see the city and state because people lie about schools. Can you believe it? People lie that they went to a school and they didn't go. So that is going to be important. Yet again, another place where you can let them know, I have a formal degree in this field. So already at the top, from your summary, your skills, and your education, you're already looking like a viable candidate. Now, what happens when you get down to your experience? Well, what's going to happen is, let's say you worked at CVS, maybe you worked at in accounting, maybe you did some accounting clerk work. What are you going to focus on? Maybe right now your resume just kind of states what you did at CVS and kind of states what you did in accounting. But you're going to go to that job description. If they've talked about, working on teams, working with customers, that's great for you because you've probably worked with customers both at CVS and at your accounting. Look for as many soft skills as you can. You're going to front load those that experience with those soft skills. So you can mention very quickly, maybe you worked, in inventory at CVS, and then, try to do one or two sentences that talks about, you know, the stuff that you did with any kind of customers. Because even with CVS, you probably did some type of customer stuff. Frame that job to talk about the customer work that you've done, because in this position they want you to work with customers, so you can at least say, because you're responding, so you're saying to them essentially via your resume, okay, well, I've worked with customers and I've worked on teams. Maybe in your accounting you had to work on teams because you guys had different clients that you had to deal with and you had to work in a team dynamic. Put that in your accounting experience section, right? Again, you can only do what you can do. So that is how you front load your resume with as many keywords as possible, just trying to give yourself the best opportunity to get in front of that employer. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, your career services will talk more to you about, how to do the technical side of writing it. Everybody writes different, so I'm not going to tell you to write your experience this way and then your career services say write it that way. It's a matter of preference. But normally when I do my experience section, I always have like a small mini paragraph that talks about the work. Then I have a couple of bullet points that talk about the accomplishments I've done it. So if I were, talking about Southern Tech, I may say something like, career prepped instructor, working, for the past X amount of years supporting the trades students, blah, blah, blah. And then I may have one or two bullets that talks about, my passing rate for my students and my graduation rate for my students, right? 98% first time pass rate for all students, right? Something that lets that person know, oh, she's a really good instructor. Her students tend to pass the first time around. That's letting them know how well I've done the job. So if you ever did anything in the type of work, even if it's at CVS, maybe you've gotten, employee of the month, maybe you've gotten, high customer satisfaction, whatever you've gotten, that's your opportunity to, showcase that so they can know how well you do your job. Sometimes, people list out what they do at their jobs, but they never list out how well they've done their job. And if you want to stand out and make a difference between you and the next guy, always try to have at least one or two accomplishment bullets in your experience section. Now, how you format your resume, again, that is just a matter of preference. Most people have what we call chronological or timeline resumes, where you talk about the most recent job to your earliest job, staying within 2 pages. Other types of resumes are skills and combination based. You don't really see that outside of the medical field. And the medical, the education, and IT field, we tend to have different resumes. But for most other people, you have a timeline resume, and how you style your resume is really up to you. Um, Obviously, make sure you save your resume with a PDF, and you can do that right in Word. You just do save as and save it as a PDF, but the one that you're going to send, right? You always want to have a Word version of it so you can, write on it, but then the one that you send to people, just send it as a PDF so people don't make a mistake and manipulate it by mistake. And a lot of times when they want to run it through those automatic tracking systems, they want you to have it as a PDF. All right. So non-traditional resumes are just like LinkedIn's, but we'll talk about that. And then lastly, because you do have to adjust your resume a lot, we always tell people to make sure you proofread it. I have been guilty of sending the wrong resume to the wrong client, And I already knew, was like, okay, well, I know I'm not getting a call back because I sent the wrong resume. Because sometimes when you're sending resumes, you're sending a few out at a time and you just make mistakes. So you try to want to shy away from that. If you do make it to an interview and they like you and they want to move to the next round, they'll ask you for references. I always tell people to have a reference sheet ready. Make sure people know they're on your reference sheet, guys. Um, and then you want to have it something that looks similar to this, with your contact information at the top. Sometimes people forget to put their contact information at the top, and then followed by the people that are going to be your reference. Now, I make sure you ask them what type of information they want there. Do they want their personal information or do they want their companies? Some companies don't want their employees giving references, so they may say put my personal. Some people don't want their personal, so they may say put my professional. So always make sure you ask your reference which they prefer before you give out their information. Sometimes they'll say, hey, put my company, but then put my personal email or put my personal phone number. So it's just a matter of preference for them. All right. So in today's assignment, you are going to do a search. I want you to do what's called a keyword search on Indeed or LinkedIn. And I want you to practice looking for job postings and looking at what their hard and soft skills are. I want you to find 3 job postings that want similar work. So let's say you can look up electrical technician, low voltage, for example, and try to find 3 job postings that want similar things. And so when you turn in the assignment, it's going to look something like this. You're going to have at the top, maybe you did Indeed, so it's going to be Indeed search, and then you're going to put electrical technician, and then you're going to copy and paste the URL, and I'm going to show you how to do it in a minute. You're going to copy and paste the URL. Hold a second. Almost had an intruder. You're going to copy and paste the URL from the job posting, and then you're going to tell me which skills they share. You're going to say like hard skills. They each wanted, this is a veterinary assistant, so it would be they each wanted animal restraints, preparing exam rooms, patient records, and then they all wanted you to have effective communication. So this is exactly how I want this assignment to look when you turn it in. So how do you get this information? So what you're going to do, I'm going to share my screen, and I've pulled up Indeed.com. Think I have. Where did I put it? That's not it. Did I just stop sharing it here? And let me go back again. Where is it at? Is it here? So if you're going to go here, okay, my computer's slow. Sorry, guys. Let me just move this over. All right, so here on I'm on Indeed.com, right? So what I'm going to do, you see here, I've already put in electrical technician, and I just put Orlando, Florida, and then you hit search. Now, what you're looking for, you see the job description there, right? So they always pull up that first job description, and then on the right-hand side, they have the details of it. You're going to scroll down to the job description and get to what they want for the essential functions and responsibilities. So you're going to see what they want, right? Here they want you to be able to plan, organize, and work with a crew. That's a soft skill. They want you to monitor and document the progress of assigned electrical work, blah, blah, blah. You can read this. So let's say you like this one. Let's say you go down and you look at this one, and they want, and you go down to their postings, and let's say it's something similar to the top one, and let's say you get really lucky, you look at this one and that one wants something similar. So what you're going to do is you're going to go here, and right here, you're going to click here, and you're going to choose to copy the link. And that's that link that I showed you, right? And then you're going to paste it, like you can paste it in the text box entry where you turn in your work, and you can paste it in Word first. And then you're going to write down some of the hard and soft skills that this one wants. And then you're going to go to this one. You're going to copy that link, write down some of the hard and soft skills, the ones that are similar to the first one. And then you're going to go to this next one, and you're going to do it again, right? You're going to click here, copy and paste that link. And then you can just tell me the 3 that you chose. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of them. So you're going to have to look through and find 3 that make sense. That's why I said maybe you want to hone it down and say electrical technician, low voltage, high voltage, construction, something that you know you'll get similar responses, and find 3 of them and then come back and make it look like what I showed you. Hopefully that makes sense. Do you guys have any questions on that? What do I want you to do? I want you to practice reading these job descriptions and seeing, so you can start to see a pattern. Now, this is a good, shortcut if you want to like look for jobs that want the exact same thing. So if you do want to like send them all the same resume, sometimes you may have to tweak it a little bit, but at least if you're paying attention, because I'm gonna tell you right now, and I'm guilty of it. A lot of people just look and say, oh, that's an electrical technician. I'm going to send them my resume. Ooh, there's another one. I'm going to send them my resume without even paying attention to what the people are asking for. And then they get surprised when they don't get a response. It's because you didn't read the fine print. Because I can guarantee you, even though there are, what is this thing saying? Probably hundreds of listings here, they all don't want the same thing. So you have to read the job description, right? Make sense? So that is what I want that assignment to look like. That is your assignment for today. Obviously, you have until Sunday to turn it in. All right, so let's go back here so I can give you your participation question if you don't have any questions about that. All right, so here's your participation question for today. Very simple. Name 3 things you learned about resume writing today. Hopefully you learned something. Don't hurt my feelings. If you haven't learned anything, I apologize in advance. You can always read chapter 7, talks about resume writing, and you can just identify 3 things about resume writing that you did not know. All right. All right, my friends, I always tell my night crew, y'all always get it easy because my morning crew, they talk. We're in this thing for an hour. My night crew's like, let's get out of here so we can eat. All right, very good, my friends. Thank you so much for your time. No class tomorrow. I'll see you back here on Monday. Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend. Thank you.
Okay. All
You as
right.
well.
Bye-bye.
Have a great weekend.
Okay, honey. Bye-bye.